Welcome to the Witness History podcast from the BBC World Service. We are taking you back to 1974 when a Hungarian architect, Ernő Rubik, invented a puzzle which went on to sell more than 450 million cubes. In 2015, Dina Newman spoke to Mr. Rubik about how he came up with the idea and how it became a global phenomenon.
Mr. Rubik, Rubik, Rubik.
Is your cube from outer space?
Mr. Rubik, Rubik, Rubik.
He got 3 sides then lost his place.
Mr. Rubik, Rubik, Rubik.
He just twists your cube all day.
This ain't my idea of child's play.
The Rubiks Cube took the world by storm in the 1980s when it hit the global market and became the world's best-selling puzzle. But initially, its creator, Ernő Rubik, was not thinking of sales and exports. He wanted to design a useful teaching tool for his students at the Budapest College of Applied Arts.
I was lecturing architecture, design architecture, buildings, and for the students, the best way to teach them, not to tell them what to do, but to show them what to do.
Well, it all started like this.
I was interested about to create something that is mobile, simple, and contains some kind of task. I was working the very traditional regular forms, and I found many interesting ways what we can do with them and how we can transform them. And finally, I was falling in love with the cube as a form because it has very special qualities.
Playing around with blocks of wood and rubber bands, Ernő Rubik created early versions of his cube. Once he got the individual pieces to move around the structure without falling apart, he was ready to test it out on his students.
They liked it very much, and they created interesting things as well. And it's a very interesting task. And I was searching different potential of the cube, and I believe finally that I was successful.
The cube's blocks could move in all directions, creating an almost infinite number of positions. So, when it was mixed up, it was incredibly hard to solve.
The task of what was formulated by the cube, at the very first sight, it was very difficult.
So, initially you could not solve your own puzzle?
Sure. At the first sight, you don't understand what you see. After you understood it, you are able to handle it.
For about a month, Ernő Rubik experimented with his cube, twisting it this way and that, and noting the results. The process of reassembling the cube turned out to be utterly absorbing.
You can do it like meditation. The rest of the world disappears. So you are focusing. You need to be there. That's one thing. Other thing is when you are playing with the cube, you are recreating the cube in your mind.
Tell me, were you the first man in the world to solve Rubik's Cube?
Sure, that's a fact. I was really happy. So that was a really very enthusiastic moment when I found it, and I'm sure I'm not alone with this one.
And so then you shared it with your students, right? Did you show them how to do it?
No. In that time I had the feeling I don't want to take away the possibility to find your own solutions, to start from scratch, to feel the same satisfaction.
I think I've got the answer. All I need's a little paint to change the colors of the squares before I'm in restraints. If that don't work, I've got the tools to force that into place. Before the world goes crazy, I will save the human race.
It turns out that only about 1% of people can solve the puzzle without any help, though every position of the cube can be solved in 20 moves or less. So it made sense to publish solutions, which helped to generate more interest in the puzzle. The first fans of the cube were architects, designers and mathematicians who showed it to their colleagues at international conferences. At this point, Mr. Rubik thought it might be a good idea to start mass production. But in the Hungarian communist-run economy of the 1970s, opportunities for business were limited.
You know, in that time, in Hungary, if somebody created something like a toy, it was a very big success if he was capable to sell 20, 30,000 pieces of it. There was no toy manufacturing industry. Hungary is a very small market. It was a planned economy, you know. That means no advertising, really, no budget for do anything. It was, you know, you can buy a toy in the toy shop. That was the book in the bookshop, and so on.
Mr. Rubik,
What have you got against the sane?
Mr. Rubik,
Is that some kind of Russian name?
Mr. Rubik,
I think I'll sue for therapy.
your cube's a mystery.
It arrived in the toy shop, and there was very few companies selling toys, and they ordered 5,000, and after a while I ordered some more. People discovered it.
In the first 3 years, around 1 million cubes were sold in Hungary, which had a population of 10 million. With no advertising, it seemed nothing short of a miracle. But ironically, it was the country's communist-run economy that fueled the demand.
Partly because it was hardly available. It was a good business to buy some, take it abroad and sell it there. You know, in that time, the Hungarian currency was not a hard currency. It was limited how many dollars or Deutschmark or something else you are able to buy for 1 year.
So the cubes became the equivalent of hard currency.
Some kind of thing, yes.
Seeing that the cubes were selling well on the black market, Mr. Rubik found a US distributor. And in 1980, they signed the deal.
In that time, they say they will sell 1 million pieces, and that sounds very promising and nice, and after that, in 3 years, they sold more than 100 million. And after that, they sold the company.
So they sold 100 million cubes, and then they sold the company and made a fortune.
Yes.
Did you make a fortune out of it?
I got my royalties, and I tried to find some way to save my interest, but it's very difficult. So it was difficult for example, for the American company. It's very difficult to protect yourself.
Over the next 4 decades, numerous copies and imitations, not always legal, flooded the market. Scores of entrepreneurs, meanwhile, made a fortune with cube-related ventures. Erno Rubik did not become a billionaire. However, he does not believe he lost out.
I am a fortunate person, I can say, so I believe that. I am fortunate because if I'm doing something, I'm not calling it work. I enjoy what I'm doing. So that's, to live that way, you must be lucky.
Come in, my son. Welcome to the kingdom. Hey, it's real nice up here. What do you guys do all day?
Well, we play with these.
Edna Rubik was talking to Dina Newman for the Witness History podcast from the BBC World Service. It was first broadcast in 2015. We have more episodes about people who invented fascinating things. For example, the story of the baby who inspired his mum to invent disposable nappies. Or another brilliant podcast that tells the story of the world's first robot dog. He could bark, walk, growl, wag his tail and play with a ball. They are all available wherever you get your podcasts from.
From the brilliant and bizarre
It was really surreal. It was a surreal kind of atmosphere there. You couldn't really see anybody.
to the shocking and unexpected,
I'm just wondering, what are we going to do now? This was really my worst fear. He found 100% horse meat that was labelled as beef.
witness the stories that have shaped our world, told by the people who were there.
When he went to the factory, the poodle went in front of him. So the workers only knew, oh, the boss is here.
Many people had many things to lose by our victory. The future was not so bright.
Witness history.
We had a designer. He brought in a fully storyboarded idea about how the Queen would arrive by jumping out of a helicopter. And we all said, that's brilliant, but it's never going to happen.
Witness History at bbcworldservice.com/witnesshistory or wherever you get your podcasts.